Legislative Day number 21 will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation. I will now call upon Councilmember Catch, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of December 4th, 2017?
So moved.
Second.
It's been a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
The journal is approved. Enrollment of bills. Bills 69-17, 70-17, and 71-17 were passed by the council, signed by the executive, and are hereby enrolled. Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There are 4 bills for introduction, all at the request of the administration. Bill 7317, current expense budget NIBRS conversion grant. Bill 7417, also current expense budget GOCCP ICACA grant. Bill 7517, current expense budget SAFER grant. And Bill 7617, current expense budget local management board.
All right, Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next item is call for a final reading and vote, Mr. Chair. Bill 72-17, sponsored by Mr. Crandall, entitled Parking.
And Mr. Secretary, I understand there's an amendment to Bill 72-17?
There should be one document in your books, Mr. Chair, with 4 amendments. The first amendment is technical, as is the 4th amendment. The second amendment amends the bill so it reads, rather than a person who violates this section is guilty of a misdemeanor, it will say a vehicle parked in violation of this section is punishable by a fine of $100. The third amendment also inserts language that would place an exception to the requirements of the bill that would state that the section does not apply to a commercial vehicle otherwise legally parked for a period essential to the immediate use of the vehicle if it is owned or contracted by a public service company, as that term is defined in the Public Utilities article of the Maryland Code.
And is there a motion to approve the amendments to Bill 72-17?
I'll move it.
Second.
It's been a motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendments to Bill 72-17.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Allman?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
And the amendments pass. Councilman Crandall, did you want to say anything on Bill 72-17?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. This bill would affect the Dundalk Village Shopping Center parking situation where we have a tenant that has large passenger vans that are parked in the commercial space on the county road that jut out into the roadway, causing visibility problems and taking up spots that would otherwise be used for people who shop there at the shopping center. It was clear to me upon meeting the tenant and the landlord last week that without this legislation that they would continue to park these vehicles there where there is ample parking in the large parking lots behind the shopping center. So I'd appreciate my colleagues' support on this local bill.
Are there any questions or comments for Councilman Crandall? And is there a motion to approve Bill 72-17 as amended?
I'll move it.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 72-17 as amended.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mrs. Allman?
Aye.
Bill 72-17 as amended is passed. The council will now consider all fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on December 12, 2017. The witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. Fiscal matters 1 and 2 will be discussed together as a separate matter. And I will now call upon the secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal matters 3 through 5, the noun Towson Row matters.
Mr. Chair, fiscal matter 3 is a contract with Acme Auto Leasing LLC. Fiscal matter 4 is a contract with CL Feltz and Company Incorporated. And fiscal matter 5 is a contract of sale with Civic League of Inverness Incorporated.
And are there any questions or comments from the members on fiscal matters 3 through 5?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I would just like to thank Ms. Grossi and the Real Estate Compliance Office and the Administration for fiscal matter 5.
Any other questions or comments on these fiscal matters? Is there a motion to approve fiscal matters 3 through 5?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 3 through 5.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Ullman?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Fiscal matters 3 through 5 are approved. Mr. Secretary, please read fiscal matters 1 and 2.
Fiscal matter 1 is a development agreement with Towson Row Statutory Trust, and fiscal matter 2 is an amendment to the ground lease with the Baltimore County Revenue Authority, Washington Avenue Garage.
And I see we have Mr. Will Anderson and Mr. Aniban Basu to come up and testify. Good evening. It's great to see you guys again.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council.
Good evening, Will.
Thank you for giving us a chance to come back up and talk about this project. It's such a vital project, and we've had a lot of active follow-up following our testimony of last week, so I appreciate the council and the auditors and the inquiries that have come in from our Tourism Commission, because there's a lot of details that needed to change hands, so I appreciate it, Councilwoman Allman, Councilwoman Bevins, and others. I want to just point out a couple of quick highlights, ask Mr. Basu to do the same, and then we're happy to take additional questions. The Towson Road project is a vital project for Towson and Baltimore County. This $350 million of private investment that's coming in, being matched by our county support, is a 20-to-1 leverage. And when we look at the end of the pipeline here of 2,000 permanent jobs, 5,500 total jobs, and a couple $100 million of business sales coming into our community, it is the kind of home run mixed use development that communities ache for. And to do it with a partner like Greenberg Gibbons, where we've seen the high quality output in other areas in our community and across the state, it is really and truly a home run, and one that I think is what we're hearing from the community in many corners is really smart government to kickstart this project and be a partner in it and reap the returns for decades to come. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Basu to make his comments, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Council. I won't just repeat the numbers that Will put out there. We did the computations of economic impact, 2,000 permanent jobs, 3,500 construction phase jobs, $92 million in annual compensation to those permanent workers, $221 million in annual economic activity. But yet I can feel some angst about this. There is a scene in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, where the King of Rohan asks the question, how did it come to this? And you must ask that question all the time. How literally stuck between a rock and what appears to be a hard place. But I have to say, it would be hard to turn this away. And I understand that whether you consider the deal to be $42.9 million or $16.5 million, there is a ambivalence toward investing public funds in this manner. I understand that. But imagine what happens if Greenberg Gibbons leaves this deal. How long that hole in downtown Towson could be there. Who will be the next developer? We don't know. How much will they ask for? And there's a major risk to not moving forward with this. I understand still the angst. I get it. And the desire for more information and so on and so forth. I understand that. But it's a lot of risk in the other direction as well to not move forward. That's what I concluded in my analysis. That's what I said in my testimony about a week ago. That's what I say tonight. I thank the council people for their indulgence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Basu. And I know, as Mr. Anderson stated, there have been many questions over the last several days, and we had a long work session, of course, on this issue as well. And I know a lot of the questions have been answered in the last couple of days that were outstanding. But saying that, do any of the council members have any questions or comments for Mr. Anderson or Mr. Basu? Councilman Jones?
Yes, I certainly appreciate all your work in this project. Mr. Basu, I have a question for you, a simple one, because some people seem to make an issue with the fact that we pay you for your services. But I guess want to be clear, whether you support the project or not, as I understand it, you still get paid for producing a report. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. We'd still send an invoice.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the members for Mr. Basu or Mr. Anderson? Councilman Marks?
Yes, the $16 million grant that's being provided, which is predicated on the assumption that that will be replenished through future tax revenue from the hotel. Why isn't there some sort of provision in the contract that requires the developer to pay back the balance if we don't meet those projections?
Thank you, Councilman. One of the things that we needed to do was to spell out all of the provisions and the protections that the county has in this deal in general. Part of that is the time release of these funds based on when different components are ready, the hotel included, the student housing included, and many of the clawback provisions if the development is not going according to the development agreement. So it's a fair question. We generalize those and put them into a singular summary, pulling them out of the development agreement so that we could see all of the county protections following the discussion that we had about risk mitigation to make sure that the obligations on both sides are met.
Other questions or comments from the council? Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure I know I had a conversation with you, Mr. Anderson, and we had some concerns with the recent bill that we passed, 8416, for our tourism bill, the 8% of the 8% that is supposed to go back to tourism. And I wanted a reassurance because I think tourism is very important for Baltimore County, whatever district we represent. There are so many wonderful opportunities for people to come from outside of our jurisdiction and county and even state to come visit us, whether it's for our waterfront, whether it's for wine, horses, whatever the case may be. And I wanted a reassurance of that, and I believe you did deliver that, that 8% of that 8% will not be a part of this, and that will continue to go into the general fund, and that is allocated for the tourism bill. That is correct, right?
Yes, thank you for letting me point that out. Councilwoman Almond grilled me on that inside and out.
It's important.
It was fair. It was fair. The revenues that are going to come off of this hotel, which we looked at the projections from Greenberg Gibbons very carefully to see how accurate is this? Is it based on market comparisons? And it was. Is it conservative? And it is, about the occupancy and the number of rooms and the revenue that's going to come off of this hotel. Now, I know in the paper it's been quoted as 20 years. It was actually a 30-year projection, which is how, when we wanted to find out how you get to $16.5 million, it's a 30-year projection on this. So those estimates that we scrubbed were accurate, and those are revenues that are coming into the county. To your point about where does that revenue go? That goes into the fund that feeds tourism, that 8% of 8%. So it actually contributes to our tourism program, which is important to me. It's in my economic development program. And as we see Towson University's hotel going back to student housing, this hotel becomes even more important. It's actually replacing revenue that we think is going to go away there into our tourism. So it is clearly not a negative to our tourism program. In fact, it's a positive over time that this is going to fund that program. So thank you for giving me a chance to walk through how those figures, and to Hal Ashman as well, who was asking about it for the tourism, as chair of that commission.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Councilman Koch?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Listening to the questions about the hotel portion of this project leaves me a bit concerned over some of the projections that the county has made about this project. You've just said that for the hotel, it's 30 years of the hotel tax to come up with the 16 million, right?
The present value of
The present,
correct. It's a larger figure. It's 30 million over time, but if you bring it to a present value, it's 16 million. Correct.
oh, okay, great, thank you. That's, yeah, that
I'm
was.
sorry, thank you.
So, okay, you're taking into account the value of $1 20, 30 years from now as compared to, what calculations do you use to compare the value of $1 10, 20, or 30 years from now
So
to today's value?
the present value calculation was a 4% annual, which is a standard and acceptable figure to figure out what's that money over all that time, collecting it over 30 years, what's it worth to us today? So that's where the 16.5 million comes, when in total, all those tax revenues will exceed 30 million over time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Almond?
Yes, I just wanted to say that back in 2012, I was very, it's hard to find a word, I was discouraged from rezoning vacant, broken down factory and 50 acres of ground to become a signature development for Owings Mills. Owings Mills had not been growing. Even the Krispy Kreme couldn't stay open. It's open now and it's thriving. It's causing traffic jams. But because I could look at my district, I could look at my county, I could take politics out of it, I could take favoritism out of it, and I could look at it purely from an economic development standpoint. It has brought Owings Mills so far ahead, so far up. It has brought other businesses. The amazing fact that Foundry Row is there, to me, I drive by it and I say, that's my Foundry Row. And Greenberg Gibbons did everything I asked them to do, which was a lot, as Mr. Gibbons said before. It turned into an incredible, incredible economic boost for Owings Mills and surrounding. This is an economic boost to Towson. It will be, moving forward, it will be an incredible economic boost to the whole entire county.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And I do want to say, too, is, I think the county has been very fortunate to have Brian Gibbons and Greenberg Gibbons come to look at this project, to study it for a long time, to look at the numbers. Brian Gibbons has done outstanding work. You look at Hunt Valley, for example, and look what's happened to Hunt Valley. I used to have an office, and I looked at Hunt Valley Mall before and after. And it's amazing what he did there. It's really amazing. I mean, I live in Cadensville, but I must admit sometimes I do shop at Wegmans at Foundry Row. And it's amazing what happened in Foundry Row. Something that had 15 million in accessible base, now having 190 million in accessible base. That's pretty amazing stuff. And I also know Mr. Brian Gibbons personally. I've always found him to be a man of exceptional integrity. And if Brian Gibbons says he has to, in order to make this project work, this is what he needs. Like, I know that's something that we can definitely listen carefully to, because Mr. Gibbons is very, very careful with his projections and his numbers, and it's proven time and time again with successful developments that people support. Matter of fact, I know several people that had concerns about Foundry Row that now shop there. And it's really, it has brought a lot of economic vitality back to life. And so for the constituents that are concerned about, well, we need this money for our schools, and we need this money for our roads, and we need this money for basic government, well, bringing 2,000 permanent jobs into Towson and bringing in all this economic activity helps to increase the tax base that we can use to support the schools and to support, good government programs. And so I just wanted to state that for the record. Councilman Katz, you have something?
Yeah, thank you very much. Really, going along with that statement, the next 5 years, the projected fiscal situation in Baltimore County isn't looking very good. The amount of money that we're going to need to operate, let's say at current levels, may or may not be there. I keep hearing from members of the council, we're going to need a tax increase, we're going to need a tax increase.
I never said that, for the record.
Good. No, I didn't say some members. I didn't say. No, it's been said many times.
You can continue.
No. Anyone
Councilman,
else
I never
wanna
said that either.
deny it? Who else wants to deny it? Anybody else? Now's your time to deny it. But, we have a situation where with this particular issue, we're taking $15 million of income out the first year, and then, 3.5 the next 5 years after that. When can we expect that this investment is going to actually make up for this loss of revenue? And so that the many needs out there can be met, such as new schools. I mean, all over the internet about needing this school and that school, about recreation, et cetera. So when can we as a county expect the revenues from this particular this investment to produce revenues that will improve the life for all Baltimore Countyans? Because actually we're asking many communities to wait for a while in order to get a new school or new recreational facilities or a new senior citizen center, et cetera.
That's a fair question. I'll ask Mr. Basu because that's the primary question we asked SAGE to look at for us when we were asked to get involved in this deal. But just 2 points to that. One is we continue to get tax revenue on this project from day one to day infinity, and that, right? And the second thing is that we're not borrowing here. This is not a big debt project. This is smart investment that we're making, knowing we have a return on investment coming. So those are two key pieces to it when we look at how we structured this to have revenues coming in. Both of those things are what bond rating agencies look at favorably, which is a major concern to us. So I'll ask Mr. Basu.
But you will admit that with the expenditure of this money, that at least for a certain period of time, there will be less money available to invest in other projects in the county, because we're talking about what, 15 million the first year and 3.5 after. This is pay-go money, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. So that pay-go money could go to schools, could go to roads, could go to recreation, et cetera. So again, I'm interested when this investment will hit to the point where we as a county, our revenue picture is going to improve so that we can carry on with those projects that are so desperately needed.
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Basu to talk about the return.
Ostensibly, Councilman, it's 12 to 14 years, ostensibly, because we're talking about $26.5 million in terms of money that the developer would, as a matter of right, as you've heard many times before, get in the form of tax abatements, tax credits, the high-performance building tax credit, the commercial revitalization tax credit. Then there's a $16.4 million hotel grant. If you look at the computations just of the property taxes and the hotel taxes that are kicked off by this project over time, it's 12 to 14 years. However, there are also 2,000 permanent jobs created by the project. There are 3,500 construction phase jobs created by the project. During the construction phase, Baltimore County's revenues, tax revenues, go up by a little bit more than $5 million. And that's during the construction phase, not after full build-out, as construction is taking place. Those 2,000 permanent jobs are associated with $2 million plus, slightly more than $2 million, of income taxes paid to the county per annum. If you take all of that into consideration, and the market has to cooperate. And there is risk here, don't get me wrong. The market has to cooperate. The real estate has to perform. Hotel has to perform, retail space has to perform, office space has to perform, so on and so forth. The market has to, right now the economy is pretty strong in Baltimore County and Maryland nationally, okay. But if you take all that into account, the $5+ million during the construction phase, the $2 million in income revenue, plus the property and hotel taxes kicked off by the investment by the project itself at Towson Row, the payback could be as little as 7 to 8 years. 7 to 8 years. I'm not saying that people don't mind waiting, but, and I've heard, by the way, this term corporate welfare repeatedly. But how many people do you know, Councilman, who are willing to pour more than $300 million of private capital into downtown Towson? That's quite a quid pro quo. And so that's what it is. It's a public-private partnership. The payback is, if you take just the property taxes, hotel taxes kicked off by the project, 12 to 14 years. If you take into account some of the other effects, like the income tax impacts, and of course one of the other aspects of this is, to a certain extent, one has to speculate on how many of those workers live in Baltimore County. That matters. If they live in Harford County, then Harford County is a beneficiary, of course. But under our analysis, $2 million per year to Baltimore County, 7, 8, 9, 10-year payback seems pretty reasonable given all of that.
With the projections, the revenue projections for Baltimore County over the, from the Prague report, I don't know if you know. Do you know what I'm talking about, the Prague report?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I do. Okay. The benefits, the revenues from this particular project were not then part of this report, I would assume. Would that be true?
Correct.
No, they would not have been directly impacted, simply because we make our projections independent of any individual analysis of a project like this, so no, the answer to that is no.
Would, I mean, I'm just very concerned about the needs that we have in the county and about the, are we really, it appears that we're delaying funding these needs, and it's of great concern to me. It's mighty hard for me to sometimes, talk to constituents who are interested in a new school and that kind of thing. But will you, Mr. Hellman, can you give me some perspective as to
Sure.
if this should pass and go into effect, what can the people of Baltimore County expect in the future in regard to the other needs that are out there?
Well, sir, I'm going to start with, I don't agree with your assessment that we're slowing projects down. And I'll start right with schools. We have a more aggressive school construction renovation program now than we've ever had in this county. You all know, you've heard me say it, we're forward funding projects. This time next year, we'll be forward funding the state to about $225 million. If anyone is not funding effectively, it's the state of Maryland. They're not funding their school construction program, but we are. And we've got a series of community centers. We are doing a hell of a job in terms of our capital program management. Now, is there always going to be somebody that says, well, I'd like mine too? Well, of course there is. But projects don't happen overnight. School projects take place based upon enrollment projections, based upon the age of the school, the needs of the schools. And you've all seen the capital program. You know what's in there. So I would dispute that. Now, quite frankly, if you're going to ask about can an individual project money be targeted to anything right now, well, of course it can. I mean, Mr. Boussu just told you, these projections, you need cooperation of the economy, and there are things that happen out in the economy that Baltimore County has no control over, including the tax legislation that's moving through the federal government right now.
First of all, I think you're putting some words in my mouth, but let me just say that I totally agree with you in regard to state assistance when it comes to our schools, because I've said time and time again that this county had or has the second oldest inventory of schools in the state of Maryland, and we should have gotten some consideration from the state, like the city got, who has the oldest inventory. So I agree with you there, but I think you did put some words in my mouth. I did not ever imply or say that the county has not had an aggressive program in regard to our schools. It's just a situation where there are still more needs out there, and we need to address them in the future. And my concern is, are we putting it off? Are we putting it off, and when? And of course, I think you've answered, in 7 years, you expect that this investment is going to pay off. And so I guess one can interpret it as, you know, if we agree to do this, there probably might be a 5-7 year delay in some of the things that we need to do. When you take a look at our revenues that are projected and the bonded indebtedness and things like that, there is some concern about the future for our county. And I think that all of us must be very careful looking to the future and looking at our expenditures today and the effect that they're going to have on the future. Thank you.
Councilwoman Allman.
Baltimore County has a front row view of what happens when a jurisdiction doesn't reinvest in its communities. Where there's vacant retail property, crime and blight are not far behind. Here we have an opportunity to energize new economic development in Baltimore County and capitalize on $350 million of private investment. The property has been vacant way too long. And Mr. Boussu, what happens to the future, to future schools, to infrastructure, road improvements, and to police and fire and the resources we need if we don't have economic development in Baltimore County?
Councilwoman, I think, you know, the central issue for Baltimore County might be that we have a very lengthy border with a city that is really struggling socioeconomically. And the story of the city is pretty clear. The tax base began to shrink, population began to shrink, which caused further disinvestment in the community, which caused population to continue to move, which caused less accessible tax base, which led to further declines in investment, and now we're in seeing a city of 615,000 people that used to be 950,000 people in 1950. A city that, last count, I could be misquoting this, 331 homicides. Right now we have a hole in the ground in downtown Towson, an opportunity to infuse that territory with $350 million of public-private money, mostly private. And that, I think, serves as a defense mechanism against blight. And I know there's been a lot of talk about the loss of opportunities to spend on other things. It's not quite so simple because there's an operating budget and a capital budget. And this would, of course, increase the assessable tax base, which allows for more leverage, more utilization of capital funds. So it might actually help to accelerate investment in some of these needs, as opposed to postpone or delay investment in those things. But setting that aside, we border Baltimore City, and many of us love the city. And we're very unhappy about what's happened in the city. But our reality is we share a massive border with that city, and that city is in trouble. And one of the ways to counteract the negative effects of that is to keep investing aggressively in our own community, and we have a chance to do that right here.
Thank you, Mr. Basu.
Other questions? Councilman Marks?
Thank you. Mr. Basu, Mr. Anderson, the council has passed legislation that's helped a number of developments in downtown Towson. Flats at 703, Circle East, Towson Commons, Towson Mews. And I think this council can rightly take credit for a lot of the improvements that are going on. I certainly thank the county executive for the tone he has set. Those projects benefited from being in the revitalization district, which I know this project will also benefit from, but those projects did not require another infusion of cash like this is. What's the difference besides scale? Besides scale, what's the difference?
I think that scale is the major difference. At some point, the pro forma has to pencil out. The developer has to look at it and say that this provides sufficient rate of return for my equity investors so that I can attract that capital into my project and move forward. And if the pro forma doesn't pencil out, then the project doesn't move forward. The equity capital doesn't come in. And so I think that's what this is about. And then the question becomes, in some sense, do you trust the developer? That's really the question, isn't it? And I know, Councilman, that's a tough one to answer. I know that there's developers that are not trusted, but I know that Greenberg Gibbons, if any developer is trusted, is the one in this county that is trusted, and they're the ones who are taking hold of this deal, moving it forward. But ultimately, that's what this is about. And as I say, what is the effect, what's the impact if Greenberg Gibbons walks away from this deal? How long do we look at a hole in downtown Towson? And does the next developer ask for even more? I don't know that. That's speculation, pure conjecture, but it's possible. We know with this developer we have the best chance to really develop a high-quality downtown, a core of downtown. That's what we know. That if you were going to pick one developer in the world and say, we want them in charge of this portion of downtown Towson, it would be Greenberg Gibbons, and here they are. Here's Brian Gibbons right here to my left, very handsome. So, incredible hair.
I agree.
Incredible, I know. Councilman Bevins, I don't blame you. But
I never
I think
said
we
that
can all
either.
agree about, there's always one, But anyway, that's how I look at it. And I know it's tough for you. It's your district. I get it. And again, it gets back to how did we get to this place that you are having to expend political capital one way or the other, despite whatever efforts you've made. None of this is your responsibility in some sense, the fact that you're having to deploy political capital because all of a sudden we find ourselves in this position. But then the question becomes, what's the right thing to do? And the economics of this deal are really very profoundly good.
It's not so much the developer that I think there's some concerns with. We all
Councilman,
admit that this
could I
was-
add to that?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
sure.
Sorry. There is a technical side to this as well. I mean, the complexity of this site in comparison to
Understood.
the size of the mall on the size of that parcel of land. You were there for the shovels in the ground years ago. It's a small site for a very dense, complex, serious multi-use development. So the amount of infrastructure preparation has to go into that site is at a scale on its own, let alone the 1.2 million square feet that's coming. It is a complex place to do the development, and that in part is what sets it aside from some of the other developments, along with the scale.
Yeah, so, I mean, the rollout of this, we've talked about this, and I'm not going to dredge this up anymore. But what assurance is there that the council and the community will be involved in this as the contract is executed? I mean, is there any involvement once we approve this tonight?
Well, we have a process that's been underway, and we have an approved development plan that, in fact, has been revised when there's been problems with the geology of the site. And I know it feels compressed, but this has actually been a multi-year process for us to get this restarted with the county's involvement. So there's been an awful lot of public involvement into the process at this point.
I guess the concern is that we approve this tonight and we never hear back from the executive branch. I'm just going to be very blunt. And we've seen it with garages that have been approved. We've seen it with other contracts. That's a real concern. But it's not a reflection on the developer, who is exceptional. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I want to make sure any questions answered. I want to make sure that we get all the questions out. And any other questions or comments from any of the members? Councilman Jones?
Yes, Mr. Basu, I did not know you were such a poet. I guess want to make sure you know that that did not escape me.
Thank you, Councilman.
You know, I would like to thank everyone who testified on this issue and everyone who sent emails, both pro and con. It is good that we have so much involvement from the community in terms of making their wishes and desires known. But for me, it looks pretty simple to me, because after careful consideration and studying of all the facts, just looking at the fact that the property has been sitting there for a few years and nothing has happened, and many of the emails I received are from people who live within a quarter mile of the development who talks about how, they want something to happen. In some ways, this whole situation reminds me of, people say you don't miss your water until the well runs dry. Well, the well runs dry when nothing's happening at the development. People run around saying, do something, do something, do something. And as soon as we're going to do something, other people come along and say, let's shut the pump down for a minute. Let's try to figure this out. Well, we know what it was like when the well was dry. The property has been an eyesore for years. The money is being front-loaded and will be paid back in future tax years. This is a very good investment for Baltimore County. We will make millions of dollars in return on the millions we will spend here today, and those millions will be spent on the same thing we spend them today: schools, public safety, roads, parks, and other services. This project will produce 5,500 jobs. And 3,500 will be construction, and 2,000 will be permanent jobs. But let me stop, because I think it's important. It's very important that we stop for 1 minute and think about yourself, and think about your self-worth, and think about what you're able to do with your job. You, one person, your job, feeding your family. One good job equals a breadwinner. One good job equals a person with opportunity, self-worth. They take care of their family, they feed their family, they send their kids to school, and they buy things in the community, and they are less likely to somehow be driven into a life of crime or despair. One job. So we're talking about 5,500 jobs. We're talking about when you look at the development and you drive through Towson and your relative from out of town looks at it and say, man, this is pretty nice. Because I mentioned it before, I worked in Anne Arundel County for 33 years. I saw a Parole Plaza, and now I see Annapolis Town Center today, and I know what it has done for that community. I know what it has done for all the people, even down to the kids who get their first job working at Target. That's a big deal to them. That's a big deal. So I saw what happened in Whitechapel. I saw how the Whitechapel Town Center has changed the community of Crofton, Gambrills, Odenton. I saw what that has done for that community. And I have a first front row seat of what Foundry Row has done for Owings Mills. And I call it the triple crown of Owings Mills. Because once upon a time, there was no crown in Owings Mills. Now we're talking about a triple crown. We're talking about Foundry Row. We're talking about the Metro Center. And just announced recently was Mill Station. All of these things are happening because investment is coming in. When the monies are pouring in, other people get on the train and other people come on board. And it makes a difference in your community. It makes a difference in the quality of life. So, to me, the issue is, very, very clear. Do something and make money and provide some ease the burden on the citizens that pay the taxes today and make everyone proud of our county seat, or do nothing. It's as simple as that. Do something or do nothing. And for people that say that we should somehow do nothing, and for people to say, well, this money could be spent someplace else, of course. But the issue is right here today, and we'll take care of the other things. Like we said, we're not taking a back seat to anything in terms of schools. We have our pedal to the metal. So on that note, I cannot help but support the project, and Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we go ahead and vote on this.
And I will second it. And Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 and 2.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Mr. Catch?
No.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
No.
Mrs. Allman?
Aye.
Fiscal matters 1 and 2 are passed. We will now consider miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
First item, Mr. Chair, is Resolution 116-17 to accept a donation of 3 parcels of land, Lions Mill Partnership LLP.
And I see we have, I think, Amy Grassi in the audience. There you are, Amy. And good evening, Ms. Grassi.
That's a hard act to follow, but I'll try. I'm here on behalf of the administration with a resolution to authorize the county to accept the donation of 3 unimproved parcels of land totaling 1.526 acres from Lions Mill Partnership LLP in the 4th Councilmanic District. This is floodplain property that the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability had requested towards an effort to rehabilitate the Scotts Level branch stream with a restoration project. We found that it was adjacent to an already dedicated parcel owned by the same LLP. These 3 parcels and that parcel will go toward the stream restoration. We will hold fee title. The estimated market value of these parcels is $9,156. And the ongoing expenses will be minimal. We do very little with regard to maintenance of floodplain property. We let it go to its natural state.
And are there any questions or comments for Ms. Grassi on Resolution 116-17? Councilman Jones.
My community welcomed the parcel of land. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 116-17?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 116-17.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins? Mrs.
Aye.
Bevins?
Sorry. Aye.
Mrs. Allman?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Resolution 116-17 is passed. Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next item is Resolution 117-17 to accept a monetary gift, State of Maryland Public Safety and Correctional Services 911 Center.
And good evening, Mr. Dorsey.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Council. The administration is requesting approval to accept a gift of a grant of $2,500 to be used for our 911 Center for educational and promotional materials and supplies.
And is there any questions or comments for Mr. Dorsey on Resolution 117-17? All right, is there a motion to approve Resolution 117-17?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 117-17.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Almond?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 117-17 is passed. Mr. Secretary, is there any farther business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. And as is customary, anyone who has signed up prior to the meeting with the secretary is allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Secretary, are there any speakers signed up for this evening?
There are 5 speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I will call up each speaker, and then I'll call up the second speaker after the first. If the first speaker could come up to the podium, and then the second speaker come up, and be ready to speak. And up to 3 minutes for each speaker. Our first speaker this evening is Mr. Mark Baskerville, followed by Miss Nancy Hafford. And good evening, Mr. Baskerville. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Hi, my commentary is for the audience and for anybody watching online. If you're not happy about how Councilwoman Bevins, Councilman Tom Quirk, Councilman Julian Jones, and Councilwoman Vicky Almond voted tonight in favor of this taxpayer handout, you're welcome to look up Baltimore County Campaign for Liberty. We will be exposing their vote on this issue. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Baltimore Liberty, or just look us up, baltimoreliberty.org. You can sign up to volunteer there, and we can work together on getting the word out on how they voted on this issue. Or you could just look up our state website for Maryland Campaign for Liberty, which is MDC4L, the number 4, MDC4L.com. Sign up to volunteer there. And look for a post coming up soon on our local Facebook page exposing this vote, where you can just easily go share it there at Baltimore Liberty, or facebook.com/Baltimore Liberty. Thank you very much.
No, I have a
got
question
something
for
to
you.
say, too.
Okay,
Don't let him out of
Councilman
that chair.
Jones?
Where do you
Don't let him
live?
out of that chair.
I live right on the county line in Moncton.
You don't live in Harford County?
I do. I still
Okay.
care about Baltimore County.
There's not enough going on in Harford County?
Say that again? Sorry.
There's not enough things going on in Harford County?
There's a lot. There's a lot going on everywhere.
Do they have any $350 million developments going on in Harford County?
I'm paying attention to Baltimore County. I couldn't tell you. Sorry.
Maybe you ought to pay attention to where you live.
Right,
Furthermore,
right.
so do I.
Right.
Yeah, that's. I
Right.
appreciate your opinion. I'm still gonna pay attention to Baltimore County.
Furthermore, it would do yourself a favor, because I appreciate all the spam emails that you send.
Those are
if you
from
could-
citizens emailing
Well, if you can kindly include their email address
Right,
so that
'cause
we
you
can
can't
make sure that
reply.
they're a citizen, because right now, the only thing, every
You
email
have their
goes
name
back
and
to
zip
your
code.
organization.
You have their name and zip code.
Why don't you give us their names and their addresses and their email, because that way we can also
It's for
email
their
them
personal
back.
privacy. I mean, anybody's free to email you guys anytime.
But you give them wrong information, and then they contact us with emails.
You've
and
been
we
giving the
can't-
citizens
I'm
wrong
talking.
information.
We can't respond back to that person because there's no email. So it's like it's one-sided. They get wrong information.
Just like today, what's been happening today? You guys have had the floor, giving your opinion on things.
Yeah, right.
And, having your consultants come in, give their opinion, and clearly have way more time than the average citizen. I don't know why you don't have the timer on me right now, but, so, look, it goes both ways. You have your platform, citizens
No, when
can have
someone
their
emails
platforms.
me, I respond to them. So when you send your emails out to people saying, contact Baltimore County Council, and they contact me, I would like to respectfully respond to them, whether they appreciate my response, support
Okay,
it,
what
or
are you
oppose
willing
it.
to give
But I
us?
can't do that because you
Will
won't
you
give your
us-
information.
Will you give us your email
All right.
list?
Pardon me?
Will you give us your email list so we can contact your
No,
contacts?
because I don't represent you, and I don't think anybody on this
Right. I
up
don't
here
represent
represents
you.
you.
All right.
Because you live in
All right,
another
we're-
county.
Okay, let's move on to our next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Baskerville. Our next speaker is Miss Nancy Hafford.
Well, contrary to the gentleman before me, Councilwoman Bevins, Councilman Quirk, Councilman Jones, Councilwoman Amon, I can't thank you enough for doing the largest development for Baltimore County than we've had in a long time. As I said before, Mrs. Bevins, Mrs. Almond, I've seen you all in situations like this before where people came out opposing projects and you stood strong and your communities became better because of that. A lot of the businesses that we have in this community today are here because they knew this development was going to be happening. A lot of the restaurants that came in from downtown, the wonderful restaurants, the streets that are filled now, knew that new development was going to be coming here to support them. You talked about the 2,000 jobs that are going to be working to construct this project. That doesn't count them eating in the restaurants, shopping in our shops, keeping our streets lively. Everyone here, I know you've gone to the movie theater down the street, and that was opposed in the past. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and I appreciate you also very much for doing it, because I know it took a lot. You're a part of the council for all Baltimore County, but you've given up for Towson, and I appreciate what you've done. And I can tell you 100 times the people approve what you're doing, and they tell us, I might be the director of the Towson Chamber of Commerce, but I'm also a resident here. 1/3 of our members live in Towson. So we're not the business, just the business community. We are the residential community. And the business community is the front door to your homes. And when we have a strong business community, our home values all go up. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your votes. And when we vote, and I work with chambers all throughout Baltimore County, I'm going to make sure everybody is aware of how you supported the business community. Thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hafford. Our next speaker is Brian Gibbons, followed by Steve Britska. Good evening.
Good evening. I will be brief. I want to thank the council for their leadership. We will not let you down. I live in this community. I went to Loyola High School at Towson, just around the corner. This is a chance for our company to do a major, impactful project that's going to change the face of Towson. As I explained to some of you, I really feel it's the most important project ever to be built in Towson, maybe since this building. So again, thank you in your faith in me, and thank you for your faith in our company. I'm disappointed that we did not get a 7-0 vote, because I really believe this is what's in the best interest of this county. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Steve Britska, followed by John Hergenroder.
You know, Mr. Quirk,
Councilman Jones?
let me just take a minute to personally thank Mr. Gibbons and Greenberg and Gibbons for investing in our community, because so many times we often forget that there are quite a few communities across this country, across this state, that do not have an influx of investment. There's no one there to invest. There's no one interested in investing. So I appreciate the fact that you're investing in our community. I appreciate the fact that all the projects you've done that I have been involved in or that I've seen have made a difference in the communities. So I thank you, sir.
Good evening.
A little change in pace and subjects here. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here again. My name is Steve Brightskin. I'm also representing the 30 homeowners in the Kimberly Farms Homeowners Association. I've been attending and addressing the council for the last 3 meetings, discussing our frustration with the noise pollution from the BCAS facility in Baldwin and lack of response from the county executive's office. We finally got communication from Donna Morrison after the meeting on November 20th, and she told us that the county had an original estimate of $300,000 for the sound wall, but when the formal quote came in, it was $600,000, and the county could not support that size expenditure. She then requested we reach out to our state delegation for a bond bill to cover half the cost, which we have, but so far have received tepid response. We now see there's plenty of money in the county, as witnessed by the support for the Towson project that is done on faith in a developer's numbers and the county executive who rushed the legislation through. We are not against well-planned community development, but we are dealing with a real issue, which is a violation of state law that started 2 years ago, was caused by the county, is known by the county, and must get funds to remediate. Mr. Holman said we are not slowing projects down. Ours has been. You stopped it. I am here tonight as the holidays are upon us and things get forgotten, to keep the issue in front of you as Councilman Koch drafts legislation that will hopefully dictate that the issue is remediated. Please turn your empathy from the past meetings into a yes vote when that legislation gets in front of the council. I did not bring the video of the dogs barking with me tonight.
Thank you.
As I know each of your council have experienced, and you thank me for that. But remember, we have no choice but to listen to the actual barking on a daily basis. Please help us get it fixed by building the sound wall and getting the lighting changed from constantly on to motion-based early in 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker this evening is Mr. John Hergenroder. Okay. On that note, I do want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and voicing your concerns and your issues and your support. And I did want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Please, everyone, have a safe drive home. Thank you.
No big surprise. I don't know how you did that. Why are you such a child? What's that? I don't know how you did that after listening to that. And I don't know how Wade goes on and on and on about a budget that he votes against.
David, I'm so